Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Recruitment Intelligence podcast. Today I am joined by Walter Speirs, COO of Solutions Driven. How are you, Walter?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. So Walter, the reason that I thought that we would get you on the podcast today is Solutions Driven have just been nominated in a couple of been shortlisted, in a couple of categories for the Recruiter Awards, and one of those is candidate care. So Solutions Driven's about 24 years old now, and you've been at the forefront of candidate care for that whole time. Do you want to tell me a little bit about how you came to found Solutions Driven and the principles behind it?
Certainly. So I had not worked in the recruitment industry before I started up Solution Driven, but I was what I would call a victim of the industry because at that point in time, really it was like throwing jelly at the wall. It was don't give me the spec, just give me the job title and I'll send you 20 CVs. I'm sure that one will fit. And that kind of attitude was so against the kind of process orientation and lean manufacturing that I'd been involved with for so many years. So I felt that I wanted to get into an environment where we could be trusted by our candidates and clients, and that we really made life as easy as possible for them. And I think that candidate care was actually a key part of that, because I never felt particularly well treated as a candidate in that environment, but yet in other sectors it was very prevalent. So I wanted to make a difference in the recruitment sector.
And I think we can see, as I say, 24 years on, that you have done that. Why is it important for you to practice candidate care? Why have you baked that into so much of Solutions Driven?
I think that I talk about effect and effectiveness. Mm-hmm. We do very little in Solution Driven for effect. We do an awful lot for effectiveness. So I, as well as being the founder of Solution Driven, I have been a candidate, I have been a client, I've been all of those, and you can see the difference when you get into a restaurant and you're well treated against when you get into a restaurant you're badly treated. And when you get into the routine of doing it well, it's actually easier to provide good service than bad service. So I think we just started off with, look, we're going to treat candidates the way we would like to be treated. We're going to treat the clients the way we like to be treated. And once you get that kind of ethos, you're not into how little can we do to please the client, it's how much can we do to please the client, the candidate. And one of the things, just to mention, in our induction to this day, we do our chicken and egg question. We say to new starts, come on, what is the most important, the candidate, the client? And we have a long debate on that. And the answer is, it's very difficult to break it. But if I honestly had to be cut down the middle, I'd say candidate. Because if you treat candidates well and they do well, then clients come. So I think that a good candidate relationship is a cornerstone to our success.
Absolutely. And it's probably part of the reason why so many candidates become clients, because they get treated so well during the process. So talking about candidate care, and how important it is, but how exactly do we achieve good candidate care? What are the steps?
Yes, I think it's about, it's about giving information, right? Mm-hmm. It's about giving regular information. So keeping the candidate updated, feeling that there is some momentum to their process. Also giving them advice. Sometimes giving them advice they don't want. So actually, putting a mirror up and saying, look, if I were evaluating you based on what you just said there, I'm not sure that I would be excited about hiring you. So if you really want this, you need to change it. And one of the things we can talk about later on as a cornerstone to our model is we prep candidates for client interviews. And that requires sometimes a bit of realism. But I think at the end of the day, you do all the things that you feel is right for you to be trusted enough by the candidate that you can give them bad news as well as good news. Bad news like, I'm really sorry, but after this interview, I don't think you're quite right for this role, and I wouldn't like to put you forward for this reason. Now, to be able to do that, and my dad used to have a wonderful saying. He said that tact was about telling someone to go to hell, and make them look forward to the journey. Now, we absolutely never tell candidates to go to hell, but you've got to be trusted enough that when you actually say you are not right for this role and this role is not right for you, that they feel good about that and they feel that you've added advice. Now, there's lots of other things we can talk about, Thomas, 6Fs, etc., which give them more reason to trust us. But I think at the bottom line, build up trust with the candidate so that you can, by giving them lots of information about the client, asking them and listening to what they say, giving them regular updates and being honest with them. I think those are the four kind of legs of that table.
You mentioned there the 6Fs. And I remember when I started at Solutions Driven, getting the introduction and being pretty blown away by the 6Fs, because they're basically the tenets of candidate care. Can you quickly talk me through what they are?
Yes, and every time I do that, I can't remember the 6, although I've been partner creating them. But I think the idea of the 6Fs is that too often you find that a candidate says, I'm interested in the role because I'm not happy where I am. And that is never good. You don't actually. I've only had one relationship in my life, so I talk about relationships as if I've had many. But I wouldn't expect that you would want to get into a relationship with somebody who had just come out and was just looking for any relationship and any port in a storm. So you really got to be careful with the candidates to make sure that the reason that they're interested is a strong, valid reason, and it'll last not only through the recruitment process, but the full year at least, because we offer a full year free replacement. And how you do that is by asking them questions that are sometimes challenging and disorientate them, but make them think, why am I interested in this role, or am I? Because from my standpoint, I'd rather switch them off day one and they don't apply than they think they're interested and then they don't go later on. So these 6Fs are really to try and open up their mind to, why would I want to leave at the moment? Now, if by going through that process, they decide to stay where they are, I'm delighted. And I've said that to candidates. If I've helped you realise you're happy where you are, it's not an issue, because you probably wouldn't have stayed with my client if you'd have joined. So the 6Fs are really to open up their minds. So it's things like fit. So that is, will this culture fit me? So you describe the culture, or more importantly, you start off with, what is a good culture for you? What is it that you want to see in the culture? The next one is freedom. Do you want to have the autonomy to do things while the support from that? Things like fortune is how important is, and money is important to everyone. But are you looking for a big increase? Are you looking for security? The next one is future, and that is the kind of long term, right? And the one is family, and family doesn't mean I have a family at home. It really just means that kind of work-life balance, right? And then the last one used to be called fun, and it is fulfillment. And that really means, how important is it that, as well as getting money, as well as fitting in there, I feel a sense of achievement. And by opening up those, and what we don't do is we don't say, here's an opportunity, let's tell you the 6Fs of that opportunity, right? We listen first of all. If you were going to be leaving your current role, what would be the reason you would leave? And here are 6 potential reasons we can talk about. And the client starts to trust you because you're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
That actually leads me quite nicely into my next question, because that was going to be, how does the way we treat candidates affect our clients' business brand and their employer brand?
Right. So I'm a physicist. So I always like to have data with these things. And this is something I don't have data on. But I believe that the better you treat a candidate, the more information you give them, the more they want to know about a client. And then when they go into that interview, they go in really knowledgeable about the client and the role, and quite motivated. So I think that if a candidate goes in knowing a lot about if a candidate goes in knowing a lot about a client and they're motivated by the role, they are going to give a very good impression of themselves. And if the client candidate interview goes well, that candidate goes out and says, look, I didn't get that job with client X, but what a wonderful experience. and then the client benefits, the candidate benefits, and de facto solution-driven benefit.
And as well, if they don't have a good experience, they're going to go and tell
Absolutely
other people in their industry. They're going to go and put it on Glassdoor, for example. So it's
really, I knock on to that, and I talked about this mirror about having the confidence and also the respect to be able to give not so good news. And it's very uncommon, but I've done it, talking to senior clients and saying, look, just to be absolutely clear, based on that candidate's feedback from the interview, that candidate is not interested in joining you. And worse than that, there's a risk they're going to go out in a very tight market and say that. You need to prepare your interviewers to sell the organisation as well as interview the candidate. Now, our clients are getting more sophisticated, but now and again, you need to represent the candidate and give the client a message as well.
I read online that 71% of candidates research a company before they go and apply. I actually thought it would be more than that, but how do they make sure? How do companies make sure that their good candidate experience translates into their online presence? So how do they make sure that when people are researching them, they know what their company's all about?
And that in itself is probably the most difficult question you've asked. And the reason I say that is that most people, when they create a website, they think of their customer as the person that pays the bill, right? Yeah. So if it's a drinks company, it tends to be the consumer. And very few companies, have a brand that extends into the prospective candidates. They might now and again have a page, but all they do is they put a page in there and say, here are our jobs. And there's a phenomenal opportunity for people to say, here's our Glassdoor. So almost put a direct link to the Glassdoor. I think when a company, and there's a few of our clients have done that, that is wonderful, because that's saying, what's and all, go see about us. Here are some videos about from our employees. And I think that LinkedIn is starting to help that a bit more, because LinkedIn's almost another opportunity. But I think most clients would say we haven't invested as much time as we could do. Now, we have in the past helped clients create web pages for candidates, done candidate videos, etc. And that absolutely increases the interest of candidates.
And I remember working on a couple of those in the past.
Very
and
much.
Some businesses just don't realise that they do need to have an online employer's presence and not.
But do you know they really, and again, going back to the point I said, why are we good at candidate experience? And we are good at it because we have been candidates. We think like candidates. Yeah. How many hiring managers have never been candidates? They all have, and yet they put this hat on called interviewer, and they think they need to behave differently. And I think that's the education we all need to have, that think about what you were like when you were a candidate and treat the candidate accordingly.
Yeah, we held I don't know if you've had a chance to look back on it yet, but we held a HRT forum. It's like a private closed group with some
Fantastic.
HRT leaders earlier on this week. And do you know what? So much of the discussion was about engaging candidates and giving candidates a good experience, because candidates just don't settle for a bad experience anymore.
Absolutely.
Their demands are so much more.
Yeah, and it is. Right now it's a candidates market, so it's good, because I think that it keeps the agencies or the recruitment businesses and the clients on their toes.
Yeah, keeps.
And again, the important thing, and I said it a couple of times, it's not just about getting an offer. I mean, it's about the person starting, and it's also about the person staying. So one of the things I remember when I started Solution Driven 24 years ago, and I was a one-man band, my accountant after the first year said, "You've made a profit, well done, but do you realise you spent a lot of money on phone calls and flowers?" And I said, "Yeah, but we send flowers to every client, the candidate who is placed." Yeah. I said, "So that's a good measure." And he didn't get it. And the next year he mentioned exactly the same. You made even more profit, but you're spending even more money on flowers. And I said, "Look, you don't get it. I hate to say it, but I need to move accountant." Because if we're spending money on flowers, it means that we've got about happy candidates. And the best measure of success is, I think, and Gavin's got the stats, but I think it's something like 40% of our hires are given promotion within 2 years of joining the company. That's phenomenal, and the fact that we can offer 12-month free replacement tells you that our candidates stay. And the reason they stay is, our selection techniques are good, our clients are really good at selling it. But I think the other thing is that we form a relationship with a candidate that we can have that honest dialogue.
Absolutely. You said before that this is, it's a candidate-driven market, but if you open LinkedIn or a newspaper or anything just now, it's all about layoffs, particularly in tech. So 2 parts to this question. Do you think that it's going to become more of a company-driven market? And second part is, if it does become more company-driven, less candidate-focused, how does that change the importance of treating a candidate well?
I'll answer the last part first, right? So you're in a relationship. You don't think if I've not get money or if I'm unwell, I treat my partner differently. You treat candidates well because you want to be a person or an agency or a recruitment company that is known for treating candidates well. So whether there's fewer candidates or more candidates, decent companies treat them as trusted individuals. And absolutely, the dynamics of supply demand change all the time. The way you engage changes, but the way you treat candidates and clients have got to be absolutely consistent so that people know if they come to Solution Driven, they can guarantee a good experience. Now, going back to the point you made there, I think the difficulty now in assessing that is that there are so many things going around the world, in terms of the politics, the wars, the diseases, etc., that there are going to be supply-demand changes all the time. But there will always be sectors and companies that their jobs are in high demand, and there will always be candidates that are in high demand. My view is, if you fall into the trap of trying to treat these people better because they've got greater demand, then you've lost the folks. You treat the candidates that are in high supply exactly the same, because one of these days you could find them a job. So can maybe one other thing to say, and I think this is important, because a lot of people have said, Walter, or Solution Driven, you've got a unique approach to candidate care. And I would like to think, that's good. Thank you for that compliment. But one of the other reasons for it is that we are an exclusive agency that takes roles from clients and then finds candidates. So we don't have an influx of candidates coming to us saying, give us a job, find us a job. And that's what happens in a lot of non-exclusive agencies. That's the reason we've never gone non-exclusive, because you cannot have the same level of candidate care when you've got candidates coming in for roles that you don't have. We're in a fortunate position. We find a role, we know the candidates we're looking for, and then we go after them and treat them well. So it's easier for us to do it, but that's part of the reason we've got that business model.
Candidates are very much a person here, rather than just like a number.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
I recognise candidates' names sometimes because I remember hearing their interviews while they were in the recruitment process, and then I see their testimonials come through, and then they become a client. They're a hiring manager at the company, and it is amazing how you build those relationships.
Yeah, very much.
Well, Walter, that is everything from me today. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No problem.
It's been fantastic. I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, or if
I'll maybe add a couple of other things if you don't mind. So I think one of the things that we do very well is we prep candidates for interviews. Now, that doesn't mean we give them the answers to their exam questions or anything like that, but we give them an idea of who's going to be interviewing them. We share LinkedIn profiles, give them some anecdotes about the candidate, really to make them feel when they go in there that they don't need to be overly worried. We'll give them an idea of the interview style. We'll give them an idea of the fact that the client will sell the company to them, but their primary objective is not to ask lots of questions, it's to sell themselves. and we give them some advice on, based on our interview of you, this particular area that you didn't articulate it well. So you maybe you can brush up on that, and the candidates love that because it makes them feel that you're on their side. And then equally, from the client point of view, right after it, you go back to the client and say, how did that go? We'll make sure we feed that back to the candidate. And it's just about treating people, as you want to be treated yourself. And then finally, Thomas International, we do a lot around psychometrics aptitude testing. And one of the things that we do, and again, strongly believe in it, if we ever ask a candidate to do a test, we will make sure that we spend half an hour, 45 minutes going through the results of that, rather than them thinking, oh, I did this test, I didn't get the job, so I must have failed the test. So it's a bit like somebody does a medical and they don't hear an answer, they immediately think must be something wrong with it. So it's really all that we do is around closing the loop and being honest and transparent and trusted by the candidate. Sorry about that, it's my last bit.
No, perfect.
All right, no
that
bother.
was great. Thank you so much.
Okay,
have a
all
lovely
the best.
day.
Cheers just now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.